Shit would be so tight if my pinky was this long.
What would you do with a pinky that long?
Uh, Shit, I'd go on America's Got Talent.
Say, I need a volunteer to come to the stage.
I need Blake Shelton to come up here.
Is that who's America's Got Talent?
I think so, right? Christina Aguilera. I guess I could have said the girl.
In the land of the Chinese, I f***ed a
Oh, beer's good.
Hello.
What's
Hey, Zach.
up?
I'm so sorry. I literally woke up early for this and then I was like, oh, I'm like on time. I'll go get coffee. And then I fell asleep again. I didn't have an alarm. Sorry.
It's
It's
all
all
right.
good. I've been predicting my own pass out times. Times I
Uh-huh.
know that like I can't go any longer, and I just keep alarms going off all the time like a
hmm
fucking psychopath.
No, I feel the same way. Like I just got in trouble at work for like my timeliness and stuff. So I guess that has to be something I change as I turn 27. But woohoo.
Hell yeah. When is your birthday?
It's on July 30th.
Oh shit, coming up. Does that make you a
When?
Capricorn?
No, I'm
No,
a
he's a Leo.
Leo.
He's a
Oh,
Leo, of
oh
course. Of
yeah.
course, he's a fucking Leo. My wife's birthday is July 29th.
Oh,
And
Oh,
amazing.
yeah, I
July Leos are very special.
I would say so. That's a
I think
good
so
word for
too.
it. Yeah.
I should have known
Obnoxious
that.
is another one.
Erica's a Leo too.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah, I should have already known that.
Yeah, whenever my wife leaves the house, she's always in like floral print,
Uh-huh.
like belly out, frills. She's Mexican too, right? So it's the Leo mixed with the Mexican kind of thing.
Yeah.
And she loves it. She embraces her Leo-ness whole hog. Just, this is who I am. This is what I'm all about. And of course, I'm much more reserved, which is really funny because like when we go out in public, I look dumpy in like a t-shirt and basketball
Yeah.
shorts, and she looks all hot and cool. And but you see that a lot, I guess. You see a lot of hot girls with like dumpy dudes, and people go, what's their thing? And I'm like, I don't know. I just like we got together.
No, I don't
You
think
know,
anyone wants men to be like overly groomed, honestly. Like the basketball shorts is a much better choice, I think.
good. It's good to know.
Not that
It
you're gonna
is good.
change anything anyway, but
Yeah. If somebody was like, you have to groom, I would be like,
well,
that's too
thanks.
bad. Yeah. Thank you for the advice. But all right, Kelby. So we're talking GANTZ. We're talking the whole goddamn thing.
You gonna
37.
you gonna cue me for the intro and then just
Yeah. Yeah.
take over and then just
Yeah.
and then just
Yeah.
start introing it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's good? This is Agitator, the only independent hustle, craft, and spirituality broadcast influenced by the works of Takashi Miike. I'm Kelby Losak.
I'm J. David Osborne, and our guest's name is
Hi, I'm Zach Langley Chi from the I'm So Popular podcast. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm just tickled by this whole thing. Yeah, we're
Me
talking
too.
GANTZ. We're talking GANTZ. We're talking all 37 Tankobons. How do you pronounce that, Zach?
Tankobon.
Tankobon. Thank
Mm.
you. It ran from 2000 to 2013. And so I've read the whole thing, and I've seen the first movie, and I've seen the CGI movie.
Mhm.
We're all caught up, right? Everybody here's caught up on all of GANTZ.
I have now read the manga twice. I saw both of the live action films in theaters when they came out in America. I've not seen the CGI film. And then I've read some of the samurai manga that they're doing currently. I don't know if you're
Mhm.
familiar with that. It's okay. And I haven't read Gaunt's O, I believe. That one is unfamiliar to me, but that's my exposure. Oh, I've seen the anime too.
Right. So how did you discover GANTZ?
So I was really sick in middle school and I had a 4-day fever, and I couldn't do anything but like lay in bed. And so I had been watching a lot of like kind of shock value anime at the time, like Elfen Lied. And the quality of that stuff is pretty low, honestly. It's really for the visual splendor of gore and intensity. So when I was on that path, it kind of naturally led me towards GANTZ. And so I watched both seasons of the anime. The first season is okay, and then the second season is like pretty off the rails. But I was so fascinated by the premise and like this hyper sped up death game premise that I immediately started reading the manga, and I think I read the whole thing in like 2 weeks. I read everything up to what was published because I think that I caught up to like episode like chapter 300, and then I had to read the rest of it weekly as it was coming out.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. And were you
Yeah,
reading in Japanese at the time, or
absolutely not. I was like a retarded little middle schooler who couldn't even speak like a word of Spanish. So no, I read it all in English, but this time I read the first 20 volumes in Japanese, and then I said, "Ooh, the episode is next week. Let's speed this up." I did the last bit in English.
What's that translation like? Because I've read most of it pirated, and so a lot of
Mhm.
the fan translations are interesting to say the
They
least.
are colorful, aren't they? Because I
Yeah.
read a fan translation for the last half, and they're a little bumpy, rocky boots. But like I was reading fan translations as it was coming out, and to be honest, Oku is not, the world's most articulate conductor of dialogue. So you're not really missing much. The one thing I did notice is I think honestly some of the formal translations drop a lot of the obscure Japanese cultural references. Like in the first volume, they reference like Denpa Shonen, which is a show I love and have covered. And it wouldn't make sense to Westerners without explanation. So they left it in the fan translation, but I think they took it out of the official one.
Yeah, I did notice a whole lot of like asterisk tagged shit that was like
Hmm
footnote, this is really popular in Japan. You probably don't know anything about it though. And it's like,
I mean,
oh,
it's a
that's
huge
cool.
well, and Oku is like clearly so obsessed with like pop culture, both like Western and Eastern. So you have to have a pretty like encyclopedic knowledge of like Japanese television and pop culture to get every reference that he brings up, but it doesn't really detract from the experience if you don't know it.
So many Matrix references
Oh
throughout
God,
the
yeah.
whole thing. Like he just wants to keep reminding you, I really liked the Matrix. We're like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah.
Thanks, thanks, Oku.
So, where to even begin with this fucking beast?
Now, you two covered the first half of the manga previously, and it was a really lovely episode. I thought it gave like a really nice introduction to what the series is all about. But it is kind of impossible to put into words succinctly, isn't it?
It is like a Matrix meets Battle Royale kind of kill 'em all. Well, it was 383 freestyled chapters.
Totally
This
freestyled.
totally free week to week. He was like, I
Hmm
have no idea what I'm doing, and let's have fun. And you can kind of feel that, especially towards the end, where it's like the last 50, 60 chapters are trying to explain what the fuck has been happening the whole
hmm
time.
Well, he
Which
he said that he had in an interview, he said the only thing that he knew was that last catastrophe arc. He said he started with that in mind, but that all he knew was he wanted to do his version of Independence Day. Those are his words. So nothing else, not War of the Worlds, not like he wanted to do Independence Day, but
Uh-huh.
bigger. And so up until then, he said in that very same interview, he said up until then, he really was just, he's like week to week. He's like, or it wouldn't have been week because it ran 13 years, right?
hmm
So there had to have been gaps in there. And hiatuses and what have you. Probably between arcs, if I had to guess, but he was he had a team of illustrators and CGI animators who he was kind of directing. He would sketch things and they would make the backgrounds and make the monsters, and then he was very focused on the faces. Oku is like he's all about like the tears streaming down the face and making sure that they kind of subtly make sense in terms of the plot. But I love this idea. I guess we can cover it. I think with Ryan we covered it up to Osaka.
Yeah.
Did we talk about Osaka?
Yeah.
Or did we
wait. No. We got up to
the shooting, maybe?
The shooting, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The shooting.
Yeah. Right, which is, one of the best things ever. But I guess if you want to like briefly summarize what it is a death game manga in which those who have been recently deceased are resurrected as kind of clones of themselves in a room with a big black ball that gives them orders to violently kill aliens around Tokyo and then later various locations. And then as the plot develops, more asinine rules are introduced and it becomes increasingly more convoluted and complex as it traverses hundreds of chapters. But yeah, it's like very biting and nihilistic, and up until the end, like extraordinarily unfriendly, and it butchers its cast basically every 30 chapters, and it kills the protagonist, it kills the other protagonist, everyone dies. I think I can say that with confidence. Every character dies, and because of like a plot convenience that this black ball called GANTZ that's giving them the orders to kill aliens can also resurrect people. Characters come back. They come back as clones. Multiple versions of characters come back. It's insane, but it's like one of the most like propulsive and like libidinal mangas I've ever read.
Totally.
Yeah, it makes you question the existence of a soul within this universe. And the characters themselves are often saying there is no God, and a lot of them are saying it in a sense of like there's no point to life, and then others are arguing that like no, there is, because to be human is what it is to be alive, like fuck God basically. But it's also it's a very interesting kind of meditation on what is reincarnation. Like if you can just die and come back as a what did Michael Jackson put it as, and that the truth being at the end, it's changing between Nelson Mandela and Hitler and all that. Stephen Hawking is like
Gandhi. You're
gonna die and come back as a 20-year-old American woman just because you're just a bunch of data.
Yeah, and people like they were so upset by that. It is super nihilistic, but I think that we just covered in the book club, we covered Altered Carbon, which is a sci-fi novel where people can get re-sleeved in new bodies, and their soul or data gets sent up to the cloud. It's called a needle cast, and then they can get reborn in new bodies. And GANTZ really does that as well. Where there is no real eternal soul. At one point, there's two Coronos, right?
Yeah.
Like he gets cloned because the Rika, his supermodel, big titty ass girlfriend, loves him so much that she needs to make a clone fuckboy version of him or whatever.
Well, because he rejects her for the otaku.
Yeah, he rejects her for the homely. Which, by the way, at the end, I was fucking just skipping pages where it was just them screaming each other's name over and over again.
Hey-chan, Tai, Hey-chan, Tai. Like, I swear to God, like this is why the fan translation is more than sufficient. There are chapters at length where it is just people spitting their name at each other.
Yeah.
Yeah,
breathtaking.
With like tears, like rivers of tears coming down their face. Like he's so he loves this ugly bitch so much that he's just weeping.
because if you go like their connecting moment was when she fucked the shit out of him for the first time.
Yeah,
And
she throated it. Yeah, she throated it. Which
that was when he
really
was
kind of
like, I'm
it
in
was graphic.
love.
Yeah, it was super.
Yeah, it's wild. I guess like the other like running thread of this, at least for the first maybe 12 volumes, is that it is like the Bildungsroman of a young man, like an unsocialized young man who becomes a fully fledged, realized person. Um, but it's so funny because that character arc resolves like a third of the way into the manga, and like Kay is like ready to go and is like a man by like volume 13 and then doesn't really change for like the rest of the manga. I thought that was amazing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They're just always like, his will to survive is incredible. And it stays there
And
until
that's what it is.
Dude, I was reading fan reactions to the end of GANTZ, where this catastrophe arc happens and aliens invade and they treat us like we're just bugs and all this kind of stuff. And then people were complaining about the ending, and the complaints they had about the ending is, number one, that Reika's death happens off screen, so to speak. And then they also said, but it all just feels like the characters didn't get wrapped up. And as I was reading these critiques, I was like, did I miss something? Like, what characters, what arcs didn't get resolved? Like the people who've been the exact same for 350 chapters before. Like
I think that Tai is introduced in like volume 10 or something, and she is precisely the same with no alterations in her behavior or any complicated emotionality for the rest of the series. Like the women in this are so like fantastically empty with so little complicated motivation or like independent. It's amazing. Like I really do think that this is one of like the horniest and like most like left field realizations of sexuality on the page ever created, because it's like so brazenly like objectifying, and I would never say that word, but it's like true.
It is totally true.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's totally true. There's one of my favorite scenes in the whole book is, so Reika, who's this supermodel who dies and then gets reincarnated, and she's a swimsuit model. She's got these big ass boobs, and her death scene to me had me dying laughing.
Oh my God.
Because he's trying to give her CPR and her tits are too big to like give her CPR. So he's like going through the folds of these enormous anime titties to try to resuscitate his girlfriend. Bro, that's the funniest shit in the whole book.
It's incredible. The first time I read this, I was like in middle school, like I said, and so I'd be reading it on my phone on one of those like ghetto like manga fox.com sites or whatever, and I would be like at Super Bowl parties with like my parents and like all of our like friends, and I would be reading GANTZ on my phone, and then you would go to the chapter head and it's just porn. It's like just like lightly softcore porn of like women like with their like shirts up and like their boobs are out and they're like wearing like 4 pieces of the GANTZ costume. And I obviously was just like, okay, next page. Like
and it's not better. It doesn't get like, my mom came over because obviously grandma stuff, came to hang out with my kid. And so I've got my kid on one side and my mom walks in on the other, and I'm on my Kindle reading GANTZ. And it's the chapter where the GANTZ team is raping the aliens.
Oh my God.
So like, and it has a great line in it where they're making the 2 aliens fuck, and the dude says, I'm jealous, that dude's got 3 dicks. And there's like a tiny little human who's like fucking a giant alien pussy on it, and I'm like, I don't know which way to angle my Kindle so that nobody can see what I'm reading.
Is it better if my 2-year-old sees this or if my mom sees this?
I'm gonna go with the 2-year-old. I feel like this would do no damage to a developing psyche at all.
No.
I think the main target audience for this manga in Japan is like 16 to 22-year-olds. And I recently discovered that basically all the stuff that we like in terms of like anime and manga has a common thread. And that common thread is that they make pachinko machines for it.
Huh.
All of the weird, edgy, dark, kind of gory, sexual in your face stuff, it's turned into a pachinko machine. So I was talking to this guy I'm seeing about like Madoka and Ava and like GANTZ. So I was like, oh yeah, did they finish like GANTZ for this podcast? And he's like, why is all this stuff you like at pachinko? And then we like went down the street to a pachinko parlor and there's a fucking GANTZ machine there.
Holy shit.
It's just wild. But like Oku is kind of like a blockbuster like mangaka now because of this series. And now he kind of has license to do whatever he wants. But it really is just like so off the cuff and like out of his dick. It's really beautiful to me because the depth is not there. This isn't something that you find extraordinary, thematic, empowering meaning from, but like the total accomplishment of this one horny weird guy's vision is just off the charts.
You do feel like whatever you might lose in that off the cuff shit, you don't it's all made up for in that propulsiveness and that frenetic energy. And there's value in archetypes too, in that like I'm to the point now with being a dad. It's like I see Muscle Rider and Takeshi had me like several moments like, oh, it's not even deep. They're just like, he's just like, I'll take care of you, and I'm like, that's he's gonna take care of this kid.
That's cute. I love K. Like I don't know. I have like my own, struggles and being like an kind of creepy, uncomfortable incel for the first like 10 volumes is not really one of them, but it is nice to see a character come into masculinity without any like sort of question mark around it and then be rewarded for it for the rest of the series. Like without any sort of like extra comment about toxicity or like whatever. He just like wins, like when he wins. And I feel like that's great.
That's a really good point. Very relevant to current society of like, yeah, GANTZ is a not just libidinal, horny, it's pro-masculine in a way that I think is really necessary. Like art that if you want real men back in culture, and I don't mean that in like the Giga Chad, like, gay, brutish way. I mean like men, like good men, like you need to show positive signs of masculinity, which
What's nice too, because
actually
he's so horrible at the beginning. I mean, he's unbearable. He's so whiny. Like, Kay is one of the worst, most obnoxious protagonists for like half of the first like initial run. He's deliberately an unpleasant person. And watching him become like a leader and someone with the will to live is, it's wholesome and uncomplicated, and I really like it.
And he gets it mainly from what was his name?
Akato.
Akato. Yeah, from his just goodness, which is kind of driven by his will to live and make it back to his little brother, who he keeps leaving. I kept wanting to be like, bro, stop trying to save the world. You have a child you are leaving in an orphanage. Like, you have a kid brother wandering the streets starving. You need to like fuck the world, bro.
Kato is another character who dies very early on and then like comes back like 10 volumes later.
I also like that he is actually the hero of the whole thing, and he's just constantly like, Kurono's so fucking badass. Like, he's so cool. I love him so much. It's like, no, you're the actual like good person. He's like, I wish I could just be like him. That shit would be so cool. As though heroism is a thing that you're just genetically born with, and it doesn't matter how much Kurono sucks. Like, he's the guy. So you got to look at him and be like, God damn, that guy's he's so good. There's no reason for him to be good. I noticed that in a lot of, I have noticed that in anime that I've read, is that it's never quite explained why heroes are heroes. It is kind of they're just born that way. Like that's just the guy.
It's really interesting because I think it like depends, because a lot of times it's like the motivation is overstated about why they need to be a hero. Like it's like they will literally like be weeping on screen, like, and then barking through their tears as they like lift up their fists and like shout and be like, the reason I had to be a hero is this. So it's like either that or it just is like the natural order of things. Like I'm currently watching Kamen Rider Ryuki for my show when we do that in a few weeks here, and like it also really intrigued me watching that like while I'm like funneling through GANTZ again, because it's like very different portrayals of like heroism, and the one in GANTZ is like very bleak. Like it doesn't feel reliable, like in the same way that human souls like seem so like trivial and are questioned a lot, especially like in the first half. You also kind of feel like a heroism or goodness is also close to non-existent for a lot of the manga.
What were y'all's highlights throughout these 37 volumes?
The pile of tits, the pile of tits alien is just amazing, of course.
Yeah,
that's incredible. Yeah.
I was gonna say that the entire Osaka arc, I think, is where the series really peaked. And I like where they went after Osaka. They went to Italy, and they're fighting, the statues, and the creatures are really cool. I vibe with the consensus that once you get to Catastrophe, it becomes much less interesting. I think the ending was great. I think that everybody was wrong about the ending being disappointing. I think for what it was totally fine. But Osaka is really where it has everything firing on all cylinders, because you have different teams who are a bit nastier than the Tokyo team. So the Osaka guys are, they're raping the creatures, and they're gross, but they're also more badass.
They're shooting heroin before they ride those those big wheel motorcycles.
Yeah, it's very Osaka.
But it's also got like the best character design. It's got the big rolling heads and the dog thing and the little midget with the big alien head.
Yeah.
And the scary Oni mask demon thing. I feel like Osaka was peak GANTZ. Besides like Alien Buddha, right? Alien Buddha.
Yeah, Alien Buddha is amazing. I think for me the series peaks with the shooting. I feel like Oku has like the most like unsettling way of depicting mass violence that even like it really gets under your skin when you read it. And so I feel like it could have ended like one arc after that with like Kei becoming, but the thing is that I don't hate the ending either. People would get so upset about it. What, I don't know what they expect. Like I read a comment on Reddit and someone's like, yeah, they should have had like an abstract like Evangelion ending, and I'm like, no. Why would it do that? It doesn't make any sense. It ending conventionally and with joy after like 38 volumes of torture is fine by me. Yeah.
No, I was kind of like, please, with how nihilistic it was getting, especially in the Room of Truth, with it just all being like, humans are just things. You're no different than an insect. And look, I'm going to recreate these people because I have their data, and I'm just going to alchemize a soul out of thin air. And here's the people that died, all the like 3 big titty chicks and then the old man. And they're just like, it's them, where they're like, whoa, what happened? I was dead, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, okay, now they're dead again. I was like, please let this have a good ending. Like,
I love that happened. And like when they go into the Room of Truth, the big statuesque alien tells them, I won't lie to you. You can ask me any question and I won't lie to you. And they ask it questions and it answers. And then they get to a certain point and they're like, oh, cool. So you came to save Earth for humanity. And it's like, hang on a second. It's not a question, is what I'm saying. Like nobody asked it to tell them that they're all meaningless. It's like, but I feel like this needs to be said. You all need to understand how pointless your existence is. And then it goes on this just long diatribe about like, yeah, no, you're pretty much worthless. We don't actually care about you, which doesn't, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Nihilism to me in books just reads, it doesn't do anything at all. I don't hate it. I don't love it. It's just, it's a mode of artistic expression. But once they got to that room, I thought it was really funny all like the cameos too. Like Kelby mentioned, whenever something really important was about to be said, like it has Michael Jackson's face for some reason, and then has like, you know, Albert Einstein and Nelson Mandela and Morgan Freeman, right?
I don't know, Nelson Mandela, my bad.
And then the alien, there's like an alien later on that looks like Anton Chigurh, and then there's another alien that looks like Mike Tyson later on. Like, so they just basically take people's faces. But anyway, I thought the nihilism stuff was kind of so overstated, and especially once I went from the Dark Horse translation to the fan translation, where they started doing those little intro haikus or whatever, where it would be like, where like the end of hope is also the end of despair. Like I was like, let's fucking go, dude. This shit is
amazing. As a young man, I'm very anti-nihilism, and I do actually hate artists who can't like synthesize anything out of nihilism and like suggest, you know, a better vision. I'm sure that'll like fade away with time, but the thing about GANTZ that I find very sweet is that it innately believes in the love between two people. And so even though like Kay is this, you know, kind of unfortunate, you know, only recently realized human being, and his girlfriend is just the homeliest rat in a sea of like F cup bimbo idols. Like, I can't overstate how
when somebody sees her, they're like, "Are you 13?" She's like, "I'm 17."
Her face is fucking annoying. Like she looks like really slow. Just the way that she's illustrated. But
isn't she supposed to be kind of slow? Like
I think she might be a little slow.
Yeah.
But she like. Kay loves her with purity and unambiguous like truth. So when like they embrace at the very end, it's like, yeah, human beings are, you know, worthless specks of bacteria in, you know, the scheme of other creation's plans, but like look how much like joy and like positive experience you can get out of loving another. And I found that to be very sweet.
It's that, and it's also just the will to survive. I
Absolutely.
thought that was really cool. I thought like that was on some berserk type shit where it's like, we are pointless, nothing does matter, but I'm not gonna die here. I was like, oh, let's fucking go. Yeah, for no reason. The absurdity of just, you know, continuing on, I thought was like really inspiring to me.
Well, that is very human to be very stubborn about this thing that you kind of don't believe all that much in. It's like God is dead and everything's pointless and I will not die. I was like, why? Well, because
they were talking. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say something crass. You go.
I want to hear that though.
Oh, I was gonna say I have an ugly girlfriend who gives me good head. That's it.
I have a reason to live, honestly. That's all you need.
Which I mean, ugly girls, bro.
Ugly girl head, I'm sure, is like the same as like fat girl head. Like, you know, it's the same with like fat gay guy head or like, you know, unattractive like homely gay guy head, because it all has something to prove.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. I knew a girl once biblically who had just gotten out of a mental institution for trying to kill her sister. And she kind of like forced herself on me, but I don't regret it.
Why would you? It sounds great. That's very GANTZ pilled.
She was very, very homely and very, very
strong.
Yeah. That's funny. I was thinking because Jack and Sam were talking about this on the Third Place recently about like, why does Japanese art have like so much like God killing and like, you know, an absence of the divine? And aside from it being like a pagan country, it's because like Japan has encountered enormous, like horrific, massive like acts of death multiple times in the last like 70 years alone. So on top of that, like with having no explicit faith system that affirms a heaven or hell beyond this, and only like loose, inconsequential ties to like Buddhism, like you kind of have to kill the concept of God within you in order to find a reason to peril through the next day, which is why lots of people kill themselves here as well, you know, but you have to kind of philosophically come to terms with your existence beyond any greater significance in the Orient. And I find that to be something that maybe like incidentally shows up as a prominent theme in GANTZ.
You find that in your life in Japan that people think that way?
I think so. I think people have to really come to terms with themselves a lot more. And because of that, a lot of people fail to become sparkling individuals and kind of just take the road well traveled because, you know, they get a job and get married, reproduce, contribute to society, and, you know, be a part of the conglomerate, and then, you know, pass away with safety. And so to really actualize yourself as yourself can be like really frightening. So that's kind of the consequence. But I do think people are more, they kind of have to battle for a reason to live a lot more here than in some other countries. I think America also has like a spirit of death because everyone was like killing each other up until like the 1920s. You know, everyone could just like go shoot their neighbor in like Oregon with my cows or like whatever. Like you have to like protect your land and your woman. So I guess like that kind of like survivalism kind of exists in America too, but that's more from like external threat, and Japan seems to be more from like I'm meaningless and I have to like find a meaning for myself and not succumb to despair and we.
I mean, it's this island that's been bombed the fuck out of a couple of
Bombed,
times.
battered, and blown up. Yeah, like the storms, like the fucking typhoons, they just like rip up the fucking island, earthquakes, Fuji can just explode whenever it wants, massive war, famine. It's like been through everything, and yeah, I love it. People's just peril forward, like the GANTZ characters. And the effect is that we have a bunch of perverted comic writers who are doing like big booby alien battle, like self-actualization, fascist machismo action art, which I love. Hooray.
One of my favorite lines in the whole fan translation, at least, is in the catastrophe arc when the aliens invade and they say, oh shit, the aliens have destroyed America. Just America, right? The whole thing. They got the whole thing. And one kid goes, that's okay. Their movies suck ass anyway. I was like, let's go.
That's funny. It's good stuff.
It's like, you know who made The Matrix, right?
But yeah, I mean, Oku loves American art. Like he fucking loves it. I don't know where that came from. He has like kind of like a vengeful anger about foreigners that like comes up every now and then. The lifeless slaughtering of the black guys during the dinosaur arc I thought was funny. When they just get like randomly just like disparaged. And I was still reading that in Japanese, so I got a kick out of like reading all the Japanese, and then just like the English and big block letters of the black guys talking, which I thought was really funny.
How does that come across in Japanese? Because some of the fan translations of the black people speech was something.
UI white boy, UI.
That's what they wrote in the Japanese one. I don't know who the fuck they got to write that, because I know he wasn't just putting it into a translator. He got someone to do it. He must have taken it from like movies or something, but like he must love American shit. I mean, he didn't something is called Kill Bill in this, like 15 volume. What is it?
Oh yeah. One of the vampire chick, the GANTZ shows, you know, it nicknames everybody. It nicknames Cherry until it's like, not anymore. And they're like, not anymore? What does that mean? He's like, nothing. But, the vampire chick, it calls her Kill Bill. She's like,
That's right.
the hell does that mean?
I hear a lot of people say things like trauma lives in the like the body keeps the score.
Oh, yeah, Lady Gaga said that too.
Yeah, okay. Is
She
that
said
what's going on?
trauma is a science, is what she said on like some interview.
Oh,
She said
all right.
it's science, and she
Let's
says
go.
your body reacts because it's science, and she speaks
Because it's
very
science.
kind of superiorly about it. What do you think? Is that true?
Italianly.
I
No,
was doing the pasta fingers.
yeah.
It's a science.
Pasta fingers.
Oh, the society.
Well, I just wonder about that in relation to Japan, because you mentioned all the, the bombs and GANTZ
Mhm.
being so nihilistic. And it's like, is that true then? Is Japan just a society? Because you would think if the body keeps the score,
Mhm.
that you would then have an entire society that not even 100 years ago got blown up.
Yeah, I mean,
And
there are still people living who witnessed the bomb.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. On some
So
Grave of the Fireflies type shit. Yeah,
exactly.
exactly. But
Well,
so do you get that vibe?
I think that it's not something that becomes like physically part of you, but I am a major believer in like the realm of the senses, or like the unspoken collectivity of everyone's like feelings that like exist like in the subterranean layer of society. So, you know, when you have an entire culture that has been shaped and affected by the same history, all of those emotional reactions result in physical behavior and corporeal activity on Earth. So, someone who witnessed the uh, undeification of the emperor after believing him to be a holy figure, and then watching two cities get erased off the map, that's
Mhm.
going to change the way that you operate in the world and how you behave and how you raise your children. And so they'll be affected by that. So I feel like it's not necessarily like the body, keeping numbers, but it's more like the cultural storm that kind of exists, tied between everyone, kind of like bleeds in and pushes out into people, whether you're cognizant of it or not. And I think that's why like stuff in GANTZ, like kind of like, even though he said he was modeling the mothership like catastrophe arc after like Independence Day, it also does have like a distinct like end of World War II feeling, from like the
Mhm.
Japanese perspective of like huge ominous shapes appearing in the sky that are completely incomprehensible and
Mhm.
totally annihilating life at a um unparalleled rate. I can't imagine that he was intentionally doing that. I feel like that's like the subterranean collectivity or whatever you want to call it, like rising up and appearing in his work.
Yeah, the whole catastrophe arc started to feel very World War II-ish. Even
Mm-hmm.
the concentration camps of when they're gathering up the gathering up and stripping all the people. The nudity becomes just so like just whatever. By the end,
Mm-hmm.
you're just like, oh, yeah, there's a ton of naked people. I've probably seen like 5 million of them
Oh,
in these
dude.
pages now.
Yeah, dude, that was one of the most disturbing parts, is when it's like the people who get um put into the like meat grinder,
Yeah.
basically, like how they're all in the water and they're like, hey, it's probably like, let's just see what happens. It'll probably be okay. And then you
Uh-huh.
see their bodies come out the other end on like hooks with their throats cut or whatever, because they're just
It's
food.
it's fucked up.
That's the most fucked up part of the whole book, I think, honestly.
Yeah,
Like,
that left a really big impression on me when I got there, like in like the first year of high school. And now I have like a sensitivity towards like depictions of lots of human beings being like exterminated like animals really quickly. And I saw this one horrible anime called Blood Plus that I think about all the fucking time, with like a rabbit like picking up five different like little humans on its like fingers, and then putting them into a pouch with like a tons of screaming humans, and then turning its hand into like a drill, and then turning them into like slushy and slurping them. I was like, ugh. And every time I see anything like that, I can't take it. Like that's the one thing that'll like fucking freak me out.
But that's part of it, right? I mean, that's part of this whole kind of body keeping the score type thing, you know. I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a blood memory of, you know, being led into a place and being like, this might be okay, it might not be okay, and then it turns out to be very not okay. And also, you know, Tay Tay Chan Tay Chan gets put into a fishbowl, and that to me was just really funny. She's in there with like an alien rabbit, and then like a dude who's also 14 or whatever, and he's like, "Hey, you want to fuck?" And then he gets like some mysterious disease and just dies. Which, now that we're on this kind of you know, A-bomb concentration camp kind of thing, I mean, how many times would you be in a scenario like that? I'm talking about the latter, the concentration camp thing, and people just like get a weird skin rash and die.
And then die. Yeah.
You know, like that's got to be a thing, right?
I'm pretty sure that's how Anne Frank died. She's like got a weird sickness and then just expired, you know. That stuff is upsetting. And you know, obviously Japanese people didn't suffer from concentration camps. I guess like people in America like to call the Japanese internment camps concentration camps, but I wouldn't really stretch it that far, to be honest. But
oh, let's go. George Takei would like to have a word with you, sir.
He'd like to have a lot of words with me, I'm sure. That little fairy. Go back to talking about fucking Star Trek, you old worn out sock. He's so obnoxious. I can't bear it. Asian diaspora
What's the difference?
Is annoying, low key.
Yo, I mean, I don't have anything facts, I guess. I mean, yeah,
I don't know. Like, American, like Asians that are like 2 generations in, like from, they all like, you know, they lose like cultural distinction and then they overcompensate by being really unpleasant about social justice. And I'm like, just fucking chill. Well, like you're
half of them do. The other half start saying the N-word.
Yeah. And the other half become like rich chica.
Yeah. Right, exactly. They basically become wiggers. It's like wigger or social justice. And it's really weird. There's like a gender divide in who goes which way.
There is.
There's a lot of Asian wiggers around here.
I really like the Asian women who like model their behavior after like Black women as well, which I find like a fascinating archetype. Like what's that girl's name? Aquafina. That's just
yeah.
She's a puzzling case study, really.
She's great. Was she? She was in a movie. Yeah, she did a movie.
She was in The Little Mermaid.
Was she?
She played the bird. But it's funny too, because like Chinese people, when they come and like study abroad in America or when they emigrate, they don't like wait around for like their children to like, you know, differentiate into like social justice diva or like wigger king. They just like go right for it themselves. And so like, and most Chinese people like go for, I'm big ballin' in my like low rise car with like the flashing lights, like smoking weed out of my car as we're like driving up that like LA highway. They get there in like 2 days once they're here.
Just got like a sick Honda Civic, just tuned out.
Exactly.
It looks so dope. Yeah.
Listen to like Chinese like love ballads in their car. It's amazing. Like Chinese people are very much like Americans, so they kind of like click in faster. But I didn't mean to go off on this tangent, but
no, I love racist tangents. That's my favorite thing.
I have a lot of very in-depth feelings about Asians. So okay, to be fair, GANTZ is really racist towards Americans, so I'm just getting my revenge right now.
It really is. It's super is. But because the Americans are always there, we're always really dumb, but we're also always really strong.
That's
Americans
true.
are also like it's like we have superpowers, but then we get killed because we're too strong
and too dumb, like cows.
And too dumb. And then like a tiny Japanese man has to come in and clean up the mess. Which, you know, whatever. That's cool. That's totally fine. Yeah, no, the relationship that GANTZ has towards America. I mean, Japan has always fascinated me just with its idea of foreigners in general. It's just, there's never, it's not that if I went to go visit Japan, I would feel awkward about being a foreigner, because I know nobody would be mean or whatever. But it's just one of those things where I kind of get the idea that like nobody would really like me. I got that feeling in Korea a little bit too, honestly.
I think Koreans are are generally kind of like bitter. They're like, get out of here. Like, you know, I
Hmm.
even when I was at the gay bars there, I was just like, no one is like excited that I'm here. Like, no one is like having a ball. That like little white Miss America from Oregon is like here to slay. Like, no one gives a
Were you in
fuck. But
were you in Itaewon?
I stayed there as well
Yeah,
about 2 months
yeah,
before the GANTZ crowd crush that occurred.
yeah.
That was
Itaewon was cool.
yeah, I loved Itaewon, but no, I think the difference is that in Japan, if you learn the language and like really like make an effort, people are very respectful of that, and they really are like touched and moved that you put effort into something that's like so different from your culture. And then in general, people who know how to conduct themselves in public, they just get looked past. But then like rowdy people who get in the way, stand in the wrong place with their like phone, like looking for like which station they're going to, like or riding those fucking go-karts in Shibuya, like that stuff is kind of like ambient annoyance, I think, for everyone.
Those are all things that I would be doing if I was
I mean, if you come here, I always tell people like
Bro,
if you're not gonna live here, you just need to go like full like like fat man, little boy, like nuclear bomb tourist, and just like do
Let's
the
go.
fucking stuff you want to do. Like,
Hmm.
what's the point of like, oh, I need to be like respectful to the culture. Arigato gozaimasu. Like, no,
Hmm.
just like fucking blow it up. Have the best time of
Where
your
they
life.
make the anime at? I'm trying to see where they make
Yo,
them.
where they make that anime
Them.
at? I needed to get some
Yeah,
fucking hentai.
yeah, I'm trying to get some hentai,
I need to
bitch.
get some
Where's it
fucking
at?
hentai. Where's the May Cafe? Yeah.
Oh,
No,
why
it's
is
good
everybody
stuff.
so quiet? What's y'all acting weird? Why y'all
There was
being
this
weird?
this guy from some part of Africa who was like recently in Japan and was like pretending to be from Somalia, and he would
Mhm.
like go onto trains and like blast like really vulgar Japanese rap songs about like licking pussy and stuff. And then he was like going onto trains and being like, "We won war. Like we're gonna bomb you again. We're gonna bomb you again. We're gonna fucking bomb you again." And I'm
Oh,
just like,
oh,
man, come
it's a pretty
on,
funny
dude.
bit. It's a pretty funny bit.
He was doing it for like a month here. He was just like running around fucking Tokyo and like having like streamers like jump him in the streets and stuff. So I mean, if
Wait, this
you
was an African American or an African?
no, not it appears that he is from a different part of but Africa and not from but America.
It's got to be Nigerian. That sounds
I
like a Nigerian to me,
Oh my God, the Nigerians, man, I
dude.
just
It's like the worst people in the world.
that's where the N
Nigerians,
word comes from.
absolutely, with good reason. With good reason.
If you come here,
We're
you'll get a real sense of it. So
we are Team Uganda all the way
I like
on
Kenya.
Agitated. Kenya, Kenya and Uganda though they don't get
Bro,
along.
they're
No,
Get,
they're
but they
meme
both speak
wars.
Swahili. Hujambo.
I don't uh sort of sidetrack, but I
uh-huh.
I was I was putting in a bunch of shit into Google Translate because I've been trying to make up words in like cyberpunk world and shit, and I've
Cool.
just been trying to see if they have any actual meaning. And a bunch of them, I'll think it sounds kind of Japanese, and it'll always pop up like Swahili or something.
Ah, that's
Like,
funny.
oh, okay.
Actually, Japanese and Swahili have, I think, similar grammar structures. My Swahili instructor told me in college. Um, the easiest way to remember Japanese is that it's always consonant, vowel, and then it starts over
Mhm,
consonant, vowel, and it's never
mhm,
anything else.
mhm, mhm.
So you can, if you just say type like Wakataka Uku Poku, there you go. Consonant vowel.
There we go. Yeah, no, I Zach, have you seen the Kenyan and Ugandan meme wars that go on?
No, I'm not familiar.
Uh
Should I get into this?
Yes,
it's a good
it
rabbit hole to get into.
Okay.
it's like I, it
I just have
isn't
the
even.
Gaunt's like human gore up on my screen.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hell yeah.
Kenya.
Uganda meme war. It's
Yeah.
so good because it doesn't make any sense.
Not to
Like
us.
yeah, the memes would be like a Ugandan when you tell them that you're going to give them 4 cows, and it's some guy like
Yeah, I already found one that just doesn't make any sense at all. Uganda's Umupingi versus Kenya's official supreme opposition leader. I don't get it. This isn't really translating for me.
That shit goes so hard, bro. It's
Yeah,
so funny.
Kenyan president versus Ugandan. And they're just like
Exactly.
dabbing in the
Exactly.
same. Okay, all right.
It shows you that the world is so big. The world is
It
so
is.
big.
There's so much to love.
and we just people who are on Twitter. Are you still on Twitter, Zach?
I like really am so tired of it because it like doesn't like work currently.
Mhm.
It doesn't provide joy. It's like it's it's a mess, but I need to promote my fucking show somehow because I want more money.
Hell yeah.
I
No,
want to
that's
make more
why
fucking money.
that's like the reason I was putting up with the like, any kind of parasocial baggage or different
Mhm.
like bullshit that you got it fakery, whatever. I was putting up with all that. When I saw that only 2% of any of our revenue was coming from Twitter, I was like, fuck
Uh-huh.
it. I'm not putting any more energy into this.
Yeah, I'm tired of it. I don't like. But recently, what I've been doing is every time I don't like something, I just fucking mute it or I block it and then just banish it off. And I'm like, I don't need to make myself miserable. Like, let me just try to like clean this up a little bit. And it seems to have helped a bit, but you have to be unwavering. And even people you like, if they say something that is pissing you off, you got to put them into the void.
Yeah. Yeah. To continue liking them. I've kind of since leaving, like when you leave, when it comes to friends, when people are like, "Oh, but my friends," it's like your friends will continue hitting you up. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly the
so
case. Like all the people I really care about talking to most, I can get them on Discord or I have their number and we'll call them or, it's fine. So,
Discord is great because I imagine there's probably people who are in a ton of different servers and it's different for them, but
hmm
like I'm not in a whole lot and it's all kind of just chats. It's more like a big group text than it is
Yeah,
like anything other social media is. So
absolutely.
I like that it encourages actual conversations about shit.
hmm And everyone's kind of on the same ground. Like you don't like win points for clout or anything.
Right. Why do you think that is? Because the servers are owned by somebody you like, maybe?
There's nobody to tattle to
Yeah,
on
because
Discord.
once servers get big enough, then they like have to have like mods or whatever. And even when I had like when I the first had like 50 people, we had some like race baiting trolls who we had to like frequently like retire into like the hey you're in timeout thing. So I can understand like once it gets like big enough, you need like people like just like keep it from exploding and like posting gore and stuff. But you know, it's unfortunate that it has to be like that. But usually there's no one to tattle to, so it's kind of like egalitarian in that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mm.
So I'm curious what your guys's favorite parts of GANTZ were. We
hmm
kind of talked about like favorite arcs, but I'm interested in moments, uh, just things that stood out to you in the manga in these 37 volumes.
Hmm.
When that nerd in Osaka sees it was a taco, right?
Hmm?
Not a taco. That sounds
A
stupid.
taco.
That's the most Texas thing I've ever said. Yeah. Anyways, I'm sticking with it. When he sees a taco being all heroic and shit, he's like, "Oh my God, he's amazing. I've got to be strong like that." He like gets the god's head and they have those laser eyes that like just beam and blow shit up and he's carrying this god's head and just like blowing up other gods with it. It's like
hmm
that's badass.
Yeah, I think my favorite is the entire volume when they're just talking to the divine entity and asking it questions. I really like information dumps like that. I find them very satisfying. Always like reminds me of in Twin Peaks: The Return when they just explain all of the secret mysteries of Fire Walk with Me like outright. I really love that kind of storytelling where they just do it and you don't have to like go through some like overwrought process about it. And I found that to be like strange and existential and challenging and mystical. So I loved that. I love the shooting arc. That the whole shooting really changed my life when I first encountered it. And I guess like overall, I just like the latent sexuality and like seeing it like both fully realized and like a lot of like Kay's like guilt with himself, but also not being critical or hateful towards him about it and letting him mature with it and turn it into something, beautiful. So that's I think my favorite parts of the series overall.
Yeah, that's good. What do you think the deal is with all the shootings? You brought this up to me months ago
Yeah,
when I
I
was
still
first
don't
starting
know.
GANTZ.
All of his manga has this. Like, when you read Inuyashiki, it's like the shooting that happens in GANTZ, imagine that but like 10 times worse and like 10 times longer. And then also happening about 5 times over the course of a 13-volume manga. It's crazy.
Jesus.
I don't know what excites him about it, but in the same way that he gets excited by sexy motorcycles and sexy big boobs and sexy black suits, I think he also finds something sexy about mass death.
Which is interesting, right? Because the lib argument about mass shootings is that they exist solely because guns exist, right? The guns whisper to people and they go out and do this thing. But in Japan, they don't have you read Fuminori Nakamura's The Gun?
No.
It's great. It's about a regular guy who finds a
Uh-huh.
dead Yakuza who's got like a 22 snub-nosed pistol.
I know about this now that you mention it.
Yeah, that he steals, and then the rest of the book is this really, it's Nakamura is fantastic. I think he's great. But the rest of the book is just him like with this, and the gun's kind of talking to him and saying like, hey, maybe we should fucking shoot somebody. And so like the gun has this mystical quality that drives you to do this kind of murderous thing, which is more in line with the American idea that the whole reason we have mass shootings is because guns. But I don't know. I feel like something like GANTZ insinuates an omnicidal libidinal force that's the exact same as the titties, that would just make you want to just go out and fucking shoot everything. And it's interesting too that it's done in blackface. There's a guy who just shoe polishes his face and goes out and kills a bunch of people. Like there's something going on with like a kind of becoming that's happening in this shooting that I find.
I think about this all the time because it's like one of the greatest like unresolved questions of like what the fuck is happening here in like all of my artistic exposure, and I still frequently think about it again. And it's like I guess when you're writing this manga that's all about like becoming a man and extracting yourself from the kind of like victimized, like lowly nothing that you've become like in the face of society, it's like that does force you to get in touch with like the carnal and primal elements of humanity. But inside of that is like something like mass carnage and death and murder. So I guess it is all like in one kind of thread there, but I would be surprised if Oku was aware of that while he was doing it. I think he was just listening to his ball sack, honestly, like while writing this. So, jumping week to week, and now he's just like listening. He like starts fingering his crotch. He's like, mass shooting, blackface.
It's like, what if a big black dude had a big black gun?
But it's amazing because like just writing off like his asshole and just like going for it like leads to like such like raw, uncorrupted art. Like it's so pure, really. It's like so untampered with, and I'm really glad that he did this huge blockbuster series that goes on forever and is like clearly about probably like 15 volumes longer than it needs to be. Like they could have just got to the catastrophe arc after like Kay is like resurrected the second time, but like because he did that, he made a lot of fucking money, and now he can publish like manga that a lot of manga, like the reason that they publish it is so that they can do an anime adaptation and make more money off of it. But now he's just doing like totally crazy porned out like giant woman doing like tokusatsu fights with her big porny boobs completely
Mhm.
revealed, and it's
Mhm.
like completely unadaptable, and he gets to do that now because of stuff like this. So I'm very pleased with the direction his career has taken, and I want to see where he
Oh,
continues to go, but
we
it is
all want
scary.
that.
Do you follow him on Twitter?
I don't follow him on Twitter. I
Oh,
will
that's right, because
say
you're not on
though,
Twitter.
as a writer, I think some writers want to become authors with a capital A,
Yeah.
which means that you know, every year you come out with a new thriller in a series and you do signings and you're this figure
Hmm.
who has an aura about them. And then there are artists who, like Oku, have done this thing. They've spent 13 years crafting something, and then they have the freedom to do whatever they want. And the
Hmm.
latter is what's really interesting to me,
Yeah.
right? Like if there's any appeal in success at all, in proving that you can be a moneymaker, it's that you could potentially buy yourself
Hmm.
a lifetime of just making whatever weird, like Gigant or whatever, which
Exactly.
Gigant, in that in one of the interviews I read with Oku, they told him, they're like, did you know that Gigant is just like, it's huge in France. They love it in France. And he goes, oh, I didn't know that. They're like, why do you think that is? He says, I don't fucking know. I don't, it's an enormous woman. I don't know. But that idea, right, of like, and I think something you said made something click in my head, which is really interesting, which is that if you kind of if you follow this libidinal urge for an extended period of time, you can get rewarded for it.
Hmm.
And GANTZ was always a huge hit, right? GANTZ was a hit right off the bat,
Oh
I
yeah.
think.
I
Yeah.
mean, they adapted it into an anime like extremely early, like
Mm-hmm.
really, really early. So they couldn't even like keep up with it because they had to make a new ending and stuff that's like pretty famously shit. But
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um and then they
But
did like
it's
the TV series, like the I mean the film, the live action films like very shortly after that too. So
did you like the movies? I didn't. I watched the first one. I
um
didn't care for it.
it's okay. I mean, it's a live action Japanese manga adaptation, which means it's not going to be good ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
that's like a pretty reliably awful genre, but I do
They
like the
did
act.
the they did the
Mhm.
Onion Alien really good though.
Yeah, that was
That
good.
opening sequence was good.
Yeah, there's parts of it that I liked, but I really like the lead actor Nino, who's a Japanese Johnny's star, and Johnny's is really famous right now because um the BBC broke a story that everyone in Japan has already known for 30 years about him diddling all the boy idols. And he's from that talent agency, and I think he's very talented and interesting and is a big staple in Japanese pop culture, which is crazy to think that he was playing like the Gaunt's protagonist. Like, what the fuck? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
that's how big it is, you know. Something comparable in size was Death Note, which is hugely popular here. They did the 12 volume manga out of manga, right? And then before that was even finished, they did two live action movies like Gaunt's, and then they did the anime after, endless dramas, you know, spin-offs, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, I mean, Gaunt's is it really appealed to the public, and now it's so embedded in the culture. You can go play pachinko. You can play Gaunt's themed pachinko.
Why? Why do you think those things? Because like I'm trying to do that.
I
I'm
know.
trying to find the thing that hit. Like what about Death Note or Gantz is just it's that thing. Is it the titties? Is it the big scary demon face thing? Like
I don't know. They're both about really large questions about society, and then approached with a really juvenile, wholehearted,
mm, mm,
you
mm.
know, fun kind of like run for it. Like Death Note is fun because it's just like a chess game, basically. It's just this like it's just two people fighting, you know, for until L dies or whatever. But Gaunt's is, you know, fun, even though it takes like the you know, kind of existential, what's the worth of a human soul question. It's fun because it moves so fucking fast. Like you can read a volume of it in like 20 minutes, some of them, because
Mm.
there's like little text on stage and it just is like satisfying, crunchy, bone splattering violence, uh, occasionally interstitialed with questions about what does it mean to have a human heart. So I feel like it just is like Japanese comfort food to like do that kind of questioning of yourself while you're also just engaged in a propulsive, high octane violence and action.
I think, yeah, that makes sense. I've been saying lately, not really knowing. Yeah, I've been on some manifest destiny shit, and
Hmm.
it's been working. So I've been like kind of in that mode, and a lot of what I've been thinking lately is like I think sincerity has a big role to play in
Mm,
shit popping off in America is so irony poisoned and has
yeah.
been for so long that like I think like I don't think it was ever coming from an honest place to begin with, but I think at this point everybody's burned out on that shit. And so I think
Yeah.
it's like there's going to be like an overcompensation of being genuine, and that's just kind of the tip that a lot of the shit is art has always been on. Is it's
Hmm.
very genuine, and that's why it comes across as juvenile too, because it's like childish in how sincere it is.
Yeah. I think that's a really good way of thinking about it.
You got to lead with your balls. That's all you got to
Exactly.
do.
Just let your balls lead you where you gotta go.
I also like that Oku is a unashamed supporter of computers and having a staff,
Oh,
because so many artists that you see, uh, one of their claim to fame will be, well, they do it all by themselves. They draw everything. Like, Satomu Nihei, like he did the whole Blam, everything in Blam was just him. But Oku is like, yeah, I have like 6 people who work for me and they make it all in CGI, and then we kind of go from there. There's a real casualness to the way he does everything.
Yeah, he
He's
just
like,
wants to do it. And he when he was like doing like stuff for GANTZ, he like they took like a helicopter out and did like aerial shots of like Tokyo. They took a day where they just
mhm.
like photograph as much as possible and then they just digitally scan it because he is about what he wants to do and he doesn't like let the banality of, oh, I'm an artist who has to do things this way and my product has to be 100% blah 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 blah. He just like gets it done. um and this is why I brought up if you followed him on Twitter recently, because his Twitter is bananas. It's absurd. He's like kind of famous for being an asshole and like constantly accusing people of ripping him off, which I kind of find like I find cute.
It is cute. It's funny. Yeah,
It
that's how
is.
we're also. But if you've listened to Agitator listeners, you will know that I have people who I know who've ripped me off. I
Exactly.
bring them up all the time.
I see that pop up in the Discord everywhere. People talking about like
I want to
it
read
just,
all this stuff that ripped you off just like to get the whole picture.
Yeah. Oh, it becomes really interesting because, like, if I say something like, Bone Tomahawk ripped me off,
Uh-huh.
it makes no sense until you go back almost 20 years to when me and S. Craig Zoller are in the exact same soup,
Yeah.
and I write the thing that is exactly like Bone Tomahawk, and then that somehow mysteriously becomes a movie. Anyway, I'm just
Hmm.
saying we all have that. We
Yeah.
all we unless you're the person who's famous, then you don't care. But like if you're like me, you harbor that, like, you fucking took that from me, bro. That was me.
Yeah. So in between doing film criticism of whatever he like whatever trash he's seeing in the theater and like retweeting like little kitties and then like retweeting like a little dog.
Let's
Then what
go.
he's really into lately is he's been doing AI generated big boob characters. So
Oh
he
my
was
god. He
he's been
hasn't
this
changed.
no,
He hasn't been affected by the woke shit
no, he
then.
just is like, look, he's just is like, look at all of these AI girls I made today. And then he comes in it like なんかモテる顔にならないな. Like, what kind of thing is she thinking about with this face? Like, What kind of thing is she thinking about with this face? He just is like sitting there like,
He's
no,
a
like,
fucking, oh my
like,
God. He really is just a horny retard.
yeah, he's just and he has his wife now, and it's just this like, oh, like kitties. It's like, oh, look, a little kitty that I've retweeted,
Mhm.
and then you go like 3 down, and it's just like, oh, what is this AI bimbo I've created like thinking about right now? I'm just like, I love it.
Oh my God. Oh my God. What? There might be some people whose ability to feel shame is broken.
Mm.
That might be part of it.
I think he's, famously a pervert. Like, he made his career writing GANTZ, which is like, you can't read it without knowing that the guy behind it is, horny as all get up. And so, he made his success doing that. And he said, okay, well, here's what I do. And here's who I am. Thank you.
That would be really cool if like being a pervert was a sexuality, like an LGBT kind of thing.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, no, I'm just a fucking pervert.
But you got to be careful with that P.
Yeah.
You know what they're going to want to say.
Because he'll talking about like we were earlier about putting famous people's faces on stuff. He just he makes the Angelina Jolie Tomb Raider a character in GANTZ.
Yeah.
Who immediately fucks the protagonist for no reason. She just says, hey, it's about as simple as she says, hey, do you want to fuck? And he's like, I mean, I guess. And then they fuck. Awesome.
I think it's great. I think it's just great.
Just be in everything.
I wish every author and artist had like the same amount of audacity to be so flagrantly like honest about their penis. He's just like slapping his dick onto the table and being like, look at it. And that's what GANTZ is for 37 volumes.
There's to bring, not to talk too much about Altered Carbon, but I'm thinking about how this kind of art works in 2023, where Altered Carbon has a lot of, on Goodreads, it has a 3-star average because
my favorite website.
Yeah, because it's misogynist, right? And the misogyny of Altered Carbon comes from these sex scenes where the protagonist, who's male, is constantly noticing women's boobs. And, the first sex scene is a 69 and he busts in her mouth. It's very graphic, right? Surprisingly graphic for a sci-fi book or whatever. But Goodreads is full of these, women named Taylor or something like that, who, have button-up shirts and, the glamour shot by
red lipstick.
Yeah, by a koi pond, right? They're always by a koi pond or something like that. And they're like, this book is so misogynistic. I was so tired of hearing about this guy noticing chicks' boobs and it's all pussy. And so I guess in 2023, you just kind of have to do it anyway and just be ready for it. Just be ready for the backlash. But what do they hate so much about that? That's what my question is.
People are afraid of sex because sex is vulnerable and violent, and it's one of the few locations where irony is almost completely impossible, and you cannot create social armor around yourself to protect yourself from pain. Because sex brings you so close to the other person's ego, you are deeply exposed for all of the things that you can conceal through polite society. So young women and men as well these days are very afraid of being hurt that way. So they decide to morally shit on sexuality as a way of further concealing what makes them vulnerable. So sex is like the knife that they fear because they know that once the clothes are off and they're revealed for who they are, that they are capable of great pain. So I think people are very afraid of being hurt and don't have the strength to overcome that.
Yeah. What you just said a total banger line.
You just whipped that out your dick too. Like that was just
that first of all
poetically articulated.
Yeah, all of that was incredible. But in particular, when you said sex is the one place, the irony can't live. You can't, there's no irony in sex. That's so true in GANTZ. None of the pinups are ironic. It's not supposed to be funny. It's supposed to be, here's a hot chick before you start the show. Check it out. Cool, right?
Thanks. I love looking at them. I don't know, the way he draws breasts is enticing. I'm not aroused personally, but I look at them and I'm like, that is a satisfying like shape, and it is pleasant to look at, and it's not cruel or evil either. It's completely unironic and wholesome and pure.
I don't know, even as a straight dude, I don't know how satisfying bodies like that would be to fuck, to be honest.
I can't imagine. It would be like fucking like a pillow made out of marshmallows or something.
Yeah. It's not a, it's very much have you read Database Animals?
No, this is another one I'm gonna have to add.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. One sec. Okay, should be good. Yeah, so it's called Database Animals.
Yeah.
Okay.
By Azuma, I can't remember his first name.
Sure.
There was this really there's a book called Beautiful Fighting Girls and also Database Animals that were kind of in conflict with each other in Japan in the mid 90s, maybe into the early 2000s. And it was trying to figure out like what otaku sexuality actually was. So Saito was a guy who thought that that otaku did have a sexuality, and that it was a queer sexuality, right? And it was based upon what he called the beautiful fighting girl, or the phallic girl, like the Sailor Moon, like the chick who's basically a dude. And Azuma in Database Animals said, no, otaku have no sexuality at all. They're purely creatures of data, right? They're database animals, and they're collecting these sort of totems when they ingest manga or anime, whether that's cat ears or big tits or whatever. But I think that GANTZ to me is really kind of a tick in the database animal category, right? Because it's not hot, but it's like you said, it's stuff that just kind of looks cool. There's no real sexuality behind most of the things in GANTZ outside of like, damn, that shit go crazy.
Yeah, it's weird because I feel like it's really interesting hearing about that book you were just telling me, and I always think about like how the 90s was this time where like the otaku had to be kind of like reconfigured as a cultural figure because of like the otaku like serial killer, the guy who had like 2000 like VHS tapes in his room and was like killing little girls for a while, and that like left a sour taste in like the public's opinion of otaku for a long time. And it is very affirming to me that despite that like moral panic, we are still able to get back to stuff like GANTZ like relatively quickly, like less than 15 years later, and for it to have that kind of ardent sexuality, but like at the same time this sort of like neutral unactivated state of it. Does that make sense? Like it's not like trying to like get you to jerk off to it, that motivation isn't there clearly.
Wait, you guys didn't jerk off to this?
No, I did not get horny reading GANTZ.
Me neither.
I did when I was in middle school, though. I think I jerked off to the scene of Kay and the first girl with the red hair. What's her name? The first big titty one.
GANTZ calls her titties. I forget.
Yeah.
Is it Ray? Was it Ray?
Not...
Or
we know who we're talking about. The one who gets fucking vivisected down the... Yeah.
She gets fucking killed, and then they never resurrect that dumb bitch. They said whatever. Yeah, I think I jerked off to them fucking in the anime when I was like 13, maybe. I might have done that, but that was a long time ago.
Yeah, same. But
I
not
thought Corona was
since.
kind of hot when I was in middle school for some reason.
There was this one time I was because I was always looking for anime to beat off to. And I was in Hollywood Video, and I was looking, and I was trying to find, it was a sweet spot. You had to find stuff that your mom wouldn't think was
Is porn. Yeah.
you know? So Wicked City got that. And then Biohazard was another one. It was the same people who made Wicked City. And then I saw this one called Chimera, right? So Chimera was a movie, like I looked at the box and there was like a girl on the box. And I was like, And on the back it said, like for mature audiences, because, it had the whole thing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get this one.
Yeah.
So I got it checked out and I got it home. Well, it turns out Chimera is this was in like 1999 or 2000 or something like that, right? So this, like, the internet didn't exist, right? This was the sole focus of jacking off, was like finding things that you could do that to. So I get it home, and Chimera is about an alien who comes to Earth and fucks dudes, but is also kind of a dude, actually.
You got a gay one.
It was a gay one, but it was like a trap, right? This was the first trap experience of my life. I was like 12 years old, because I got this video home and it's like, oh shit, she doesn't have titties. She has like a torso like a dude, and she's like fucking truckers and stuff like that. But then she kills them. It's like Species, kind of that kind of thing.
Does she have a pussy?
I don't remember.
Okay.
But what I do remember is that I was like, well, I'm here. So
I googled Chimera gay alien anime, and one of the first things that comes up is George Takei. There he is. Wait, it's called Chimera?
Chimera, yeah. Kimera is how I remember it. Yeah.
Chimera. Okay, let's see. Okay. I gotta find this.
Oh yeah, she's doing the like disco piece thing on the
Cunty.
Yeah.
I love this.
So that was David's
vampire. Okay.
Androgynous. It's a dude. But again,
we fell into the same trap. I saw this.
You saw this?
Yeah. And I was like, I had the same weird feelings.
I think this is like literally the definition of a trap.
Yeah, it got me.
Oh, wow.
And it was in America. It was in America. Of all the things to come
with
to America.
With an English dub. What the hell?
We have like Gundam and Dragon Ball, and then this.
And it's like, funny because you actually didn't even have Gundam until like 4 years like before you watched this, because Gundam was a no-go. They're like, this is too complicated. And then they were like, oh, they finally made a retarded Gundam when they did Gundam Wing, and they're like, all right, we can put that one on fucking TV and someone will probably get it. And it was still too complicated, and Gundam never became popular in America. You two need to do a Gundam dive eventually. That's going to be, it's brutal, and it would eat up like 6 months to even get to the, if you want to get to Char's Counterattack, which is what Ano Hideaki describes as one of the best animated films of all time, he's right. You have to watch all of the original, then you have to watch all of Zeta, and then you have to watch Double Zeta as well. So that's like 150 episodes, and a lot of it is shit, but it's worth it.
You have to slog through it to get to the gold.
You have to slog through Double Zeta.
I loved Gundam, and I thought like this has to be the coolest shit. And none of my friends they were never really that into it.
No, Gundam is something that I get a lot of shit for now. Like I told this guy I'm fucking, he's like, oh yeah, like you're a white American in Japan, you definitely like some anime. And I was like, ugh. Yes. So like, I'm like, the ones I'm like, I like all the weird like Kageki, like extreme ones. I'm like Eva, Madoka, and then I'm like, and secretly I'm like really into Gundam. And he's like, I've never met a gay guy who likes Gundam ever. I guess it doesn't appeal. I don't know why. There's like cunty women who like have like psychic powers and like cry and like kill themselves and like cunty I mean, I feels LGBT like okay,
it's kind of gay, but it's got some gay shit.
I think it's like I mean, in the original series, like the main arc is like a very romantic hatred between the antagonist and the protagonist.
So what's the relationship I guess, between how do I put this? Gayness and gay appeal and like and theater. Because what you're saying about this is like, and of course, like a lot of gay, like I've seen RuPaul. My wife loves RuPaul, and they all love musicals and theater and this kind of shit. What's going on with that?
I know the answer to this, actually. It's really simple. It's because gay men feel like they have these monstrous, like female, like unbelievably powerful and potent like emotions about things. Because when you love men, that engenders a lot of strife and conflict. And it's really like a major experience. That's why Lana Del Rey is like so right, is because she writes about, loving a man in these like huge, spectacular, overblown terms. And gay men feel that way, but they cannot express that, because of male socialization. And so it comes across when they do kind of reach to express their grandiosity of feeling, it comes across as somewhat ironic. And so theater is the perfect place to do that because theater has a very clear understanding of the audience. It has a layer of performance, so it already has like that kind of artful irony about it. And then it also has the overblown, exaggerated feelings that gay men privately experience, literally staged as performance in the most there's nothing more ridiculous than bursting out into song. So like it hits all of the emotional identification notes correctly. I mean, you just have to look at like the Cabaret, Liza Minnelli doing Maybe This Time, where she's like, no one ever loves me. I fail in love every time, but this is gonna be the time I'm gonna win. And it's just like her in a black room. And of course, like meanwhile, like, the Holocaust is about to start in the background of that musical. So you both would love Cabaret. Like literally it has like a song where they're all like praising like Hitler, like doing, the what's that called? What's it?
The Heil.
Yeah, they're doing like the Heil, like singing about the purity of the white race. And then the next scene is like Liza Minnelli like doing jazz hands, like not realizing that she's about to get shipped the fuck off to Dachau. So yeah, but you see kind of where that all kind of fits together.
I do. Are you saying that it's because there's the layer of performance and irony that mirrors a gay man's experience being gay?
There's definitely that, because it's kind of like there's a really great theory that I read in a book called How to Be Gay by David M. Halperin. It's one of my favorite books. And he says that one of the most critical, like, artistic representations that exists is the, quote, performance of suffering, unquote. So it's like female images that are like acting out deep hurt and pain. But because it's so like performative and overstated, if you think of something like Mommy Dearest, for instance, like it's so overblown that it kind of becomes a camp or irony. But that performance is it correctly understands like the irony of like gay male pain, where like they know that their situation is ridiculous. Like, oh my God, I have been either like genetically or like conditionally brought up, and now I accidentally like the same sex. Like, but it's kind of funny. Like, it's like something has gone really wrong here, and like now I'm like a man who has like towering female feelings for other men. Like we kind of know it's funny if you're like like artistically minded enough. So
that's like GANTZ too. It's like you got hit by a train, but guess where you are now.
You're a bunch of black guys in vacation in Tokyo, but I'm like, uh-oh.
Is GANTZ isn't campy though? I wouldn't call it camp.
No, I don't think GANTZ is very camp. I wouldn't describe it that way. Is
camp just a gay thing? Can straight people be campy?
Straight people are almost exclusively. You can't be like, camp is really hard for straight people because it's like, and for gay people lately, people like to call everything camp. It's not the case. Camp is like a really specific sensation of like a very earnest depiction of extraordinary like sentimentality and feeling that's like way over the top that misses the mark and kind of fails. And because it fails, it becomes somehow more realistic as
So
camp.
it's like new metal.
I guess you could call some new metal camp when it fails, but sometimes new metal is like quite like real and convincing, don't you think?
Sometimes, but I think I might like the camp elements of it. I've been
Yeah,
sincerely not I don't listen to anything ironically because who has the time?
right.
But I've been listening to Papa Roach recently.
I would say
And
Papa
that
Roach is probably campy.
right? I mean, it's
This is my last resort.
Exactly. My wife and I got into it because we watched them live. We went to the big new metal festival and we
That's
saw
great.
them live. And we were like, this is great. This is actually really good. So yeah, I think it just reminds me of like how new metal lyrics are always very they're not poetic. You know, it's not poetry. It's like, I'm sad, I'm gonna cut my wrists. Somebody left me, life is pointless, whatever. Big emotions. GANTZ actually is like that too. Like the haikus before everything. It's, you know, the world is ending, so exist in despair because that's all you have for the rest of time.
That's a little
cool.
campy. Yeah,
let's go.
But I think you can rest assured that camp is kind of an outdated concept at the moment, and you don't need to worry too much about it.
Oh, okay, cool. I think
it's been a little over discussed, so
has it?
Yeah, I think I don't need to hear gay people say camp again for probably like 10 years or so. I think we'd all be okay without it. Because it's like low form. And now it's like it's easy to apply camp to like, because everything fails now. Everything can be like a little campy. And it's good when you are reinterpreting things correctly. But if you're like just lifelessly watching like Wednesday on Netflix and being like, that's camp. Haha. It's just kind of depressing.
It's like a fail safe for when something sucks.
Exactly.
Like, no, you don't get it. It's camp.
This is New Baby. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. This little phoenix.
Oh my God. Look at those big, lovely eyes. Ah! Oh my goodness. Ah!
The tongue came out.
The tongue came out. Oh, this baby is a real winner.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
He's so good too. He
looks like he's really, really interested in what's going on.
These eyes stay like that too. He has the most enormous eyes. Yeah.
Those eyes are fucking huge.
Hey.
You are gonna be a cute motherfucker. Oh my God.
He has like his I imagine eyes probably grow. I think
your eyes stay the same size forever, actually.
Do they?
They do.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
he has a little noise.
You gonna say something? Can you say something? You say hi.
Hey, baby. That's a good one. I'll take it. Lately, I want to get shotgun married like as soon as possible and then have a baby tomorrow. Like I want to really just run right for it, even though I'm like on the brink of unemployment and like listless in life. But I want to get married and I want a baby too.
Is that camp?
If I fail.
Yeah, only if you fail. How would you do that? How would you find a surrogate?
The guy who I want to marry, which is a really crazy thing to say because I've only known him for like 2.5 months. But
you can't ask a gay guy how he's gonna have a baby, you homophobe.
I don't care. He's rich. If he wants to pay for a baby, people are like, it's evil, it's dark and twisted, it's sick to use women like that. I'm like, I don't fucking care. I want a baby. Who
Get that Cambodian
cares?
bitch in here and fucking
be mad.
Squirt one out.
Be mad. Be mad about my baby. Like, be fucking mad about it. I will adopt whatever. I don't fucking care. You can't do that in this country though, so I'm gonna have to go back to America and pick up some Asian kid there.
Bro, get a black one and bring it back. That'll be really funny.
God, that poor black baby. Can you imagine getting like brought up by like a white expat faggot and a Japanese faggot, and
And you're
just
Mark,
like,
and you're like fucking Michael Clark Duncan.
yeah, and you're like a black baby like going to school in Japan. You're like, oh my god.
You have to have like the high school uniform in elementary school. You're like,
No, don't
Oh,
worry.
he
That's
looks like
not you.
he's gonna be your best friend.
Oh yeah. He's a mama's boy, but
Oh, is he?
he likes me.
Oh,
that's the one that looks like you too. His other son looks like his mom.
oh yeah.
This kid doesn't
Phoenix.
look Mexican at all. This is a straight up white boy.
It's a white baby.
Yeah.
It's a white baby if I ever see one.
We she had a C-section and
Ah.
they they're on the other side of the curtain and they go, "Oh, that little redheaded baby." And my wife and I look at each other and we're like, I know they're not talking about another kid while they're here like cutting you open. And then they hold him up and I'm like, we have a redheaded kid? Where'd this come from?
That's crazy. Yeah, I was C-section too, so well, you could turn out like me, so that could be something. Woohoo.
You could be so popular.
Yeah, you could be so popular. Oh, wow.
That's so funny.
Yeah. Oh.
That is magical.
Where did you meet this guy?
This guy, the one I'm obsessed with and want to marry tomorrow.
Mhm.
I met him on an app, but then he recognized me in public and stopped me in the street near Harajuku.
What does he do?
He is a professional classical pianist.
Oh, wow. Does he come from money or does he make the money from the piano?
No, he comes from money and he makes money from the piano.
That's pretty cool.
I've never been self-conscious of my class in my entire life. This would be the first time. So before I'm just like, whatever, like who cares? Money, who gives a shit? And now I'm like, is he not gonna marry me because I'm poor?
That's cool though. You feeling a
I'm
little
Jack
bit
Dawson, it's okay.
You feeling a little bit like Tay.
I don't feel as retarded as her.
Yeah.
I feel like I look a little better than her. At least I hope so.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to. There's a quote in Vox Lux, which is one of my favorite movies, and Natalie Portman plays this like manic pop star, and she's insulting her sister, and she goes, "Are you a retard?" Like in a heavy New Jersey accent, and then she says, "Because sometimes your jaw slacks in a way that looks like life just kind of happening to you." And that's how fucking Taya looks in GANTZ.
Your jaw slack like life's just happening to you. That's good. It's a good way to be though. It's a good way to be.
Yeah.
You can find a pianist and just have your jaw go slack. I mean,
No, but he doesn't want my jack to be slack. What? My jaw to be slack. Excuse me. He's like, I've only dated artists my entire life, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I have an art podcast, so whoop-de-doo.
well, there we go.
I've
That's
published
cool.
2 short stories and have no novel to my name, so just you wait, I'm gonna be a star.
How's your novel going?
I decided to start over with a kind of different approach to it. It's going okay, but I just need to finish it and stop being so critical. Because
What's the concept of the book?
it's really similar to kind of what I was talking about earlier about how I think there's like a subterranean world of feelings that occasionally spikes up into the real world. So it's about the demon of beauty in Tokyo and one person dealing with it. So it's kind of like supernatural, but not really.
Dealing with it in what way?
As in like it's kind of like Murakami Ryu, like, you know, in the way that it's like there's this entity that is massacring people, and he is the protagonist is directly engaged with that figure.
Like in the miso soup kind of thing? Like he's
It's
having
like
to follow.
it's similar to that, but it's obviously the gay sex stuff. So
Is the demon is it scary? So like a Death Note kind of thing? Or
no, it's like the human conception of like beauty, like so it's like scary in a menacing way, but it is like very aesthetically appealing.
Why'd you start over?
Um, I've been writing and working on like the angle for this like for probably like 3 years, and like I was having a lot of trouble getting like a structure that makes sense. So the first time I made a lot of progress on it, it was much too like scene, like formalized. And so then I was like, let me try like writing this in first person and see if that does anything. So I left that draft and then tried it again in first person. And that was a huge mistake. And I'm not a first person writer. And so now I know exactly how it goes. And I know exactly the rhythm and like the sense of structure for it. And it's coming together faster now.
What is the structure?
It's broken down into much shorter passages. Before it was like really long chapters of like lots of things happening, and now it's like a lot closer to like several page scenes or like really brief scenes that like happen and then it cuts to the next one, and it's a lot more like I think sensual and more like feeling and less narrative, which is I think working very well.
Where did the idea come from?
I have thought about this for a long time. I think I was pretty influenced by the Twin Peaks of like a manifestation of evil, you know, existing in the world. And so I was like thinking about the stuff that I struggle with the most in my life, and it would be like probably like manifestations of like you know, lust and beauty. And so I wanted to write something that reflected how I feel living in this country and being like confronted by it every day, and like come to the conclusion about like how one copes with that as a part of their everyday life, being assailed by inaccessible beauty that's just overwhelming in its power over me, if that makes sense.
How does one cope?
I think you either have to submit to being completely destroyed by it, or you have to destroy it yourself.
Mass shooting.
Mass shooting.
Draw big titties.
Yeah, or Mishima Yukio, you know. So it's like yeah, you either have to be tamed by it or tame it, or to be killed by it or kill it. And
you say that a lot. You say that on Twitter. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you say that a lot on Twitter about how you'll see men who are so beautiful that you want to just like fucking kill yourself right there.
All the time.
What's up with that?
What's up with that? I mean, this is a good question. Have you seen In the Realm of the Senses?
No.
Oh man, it's amazing. It's an Oshima film, very pornographic, and it's about it's adapted from a true story of a geisha, I think in like 1920s Japan. And she falls deeply in love with a young man, and they have 3 weeks where they completely isolate themselves from the rest of the world and just have like the most intense sex ever, where they like completely dissolve into each other basically. And she starts like kind of playfully torturing him, like gagging him, choking him, and it ends with her castrating him and taking his penis and putting it in her kimono and like wandering around for, you know, a few weeks before she's arrested. She was a real woman and that really happened, but like I feel like when I see people that are like so like, you know, beautiful and inaccessible to me, it's like so overwhelming. It's like that this is a real corporeal thing in front of me that I'll never be able to like do anything with. So
right.
Just to like be destroyed in the moment by that would be satisfying for me. So I would like to overcome that, but
to give you some relief from that feeling, or okay, all right.
No, I think that would be like a perfect way to like artistically create my life, is if it ended, you know, in the hands of someone who I found, you know, perfect. You know, isn't that lovely?
So creation with the end in mind.
Exactly.
Some kind of end in mind. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm too practical, and I like life too much to like actually do anything like that. Not that there would be anyone who would go along with that either. That's like insane, but you know, it's completely, you know, in the dream world, but it does motivate me. That's true.
Is this like what people mean when they say like, oh, I wish that bitch would step on me or something like that. Is that
I think most of
Is
the time
that-
those people are being ironic. Like I
Are
don't
they?
really know what that's all about, to be
Okay.
honest.
Okay. But you mean like if you actually just exploded
Yeah,
just
I
on the
mean, my
street?
ideal way to die would be all of the most like beautiful men I've ever seen would take me up to a rocky coastline on a bright like 4 p.m. afternoon overlooking the ocean, and they would each stab me with a lance so that my body is like a little bit extended off the ground, and then I would slowly bleed out, looking at the sun as I slowly die.
Or beat out, whichever
Or
one.
beat out, whatever. Either way is fine.
That's so interesting. Have you ever watched a show called Hannibal?
No, I know what it's about though.
Yeah. You might really like this show actually.
Uh-huh.
It was so funny. My wife and I have been watching it. We're on season 3,
Mm-hmm.
and I was looking for a particular image because it's a very interesting visual show.
Yeah.
And I was looking for this image, and Google took me to like the very first thing was a Forbes kind of like episode recap
Mm-hmm.
of it. And it was written by, in 2015, a young Adam Lehrer was writing the recaps for these episodes.
That's
hey,
funny.
It's Adam, right? I was super excited to see him there. But it's and of course, he loves it because it's actually this very dark, surreal, very visually interesting show about these two guys, Hannibal Lecter and Will Graham, who's the kind of FBI guy who's investigating him, and they're very obviously in love with each other. But like the show got canceled, and one of the reasons I think it did is because it's trying to express to the viewer this weird wanting to kill the person who you love, but also kind of wanting them to eat you.
Mm-hmm.
And how the characters go back and forth between that. And the show doesn't make any concessions on that initial conceit. It's like, no, he wants to kill him, but he also kind of wants him to kill him.
That's very up Adam's modus operandi, because he also loves Nicholas Winding Refn, the director who I really like too. And he did the Neon Demon, which is of course about people being so beautiful that you have to eat them. So no, it's like a real thing, but I'm kind of glad that my really manic tweets about like looking at men on the train like wanting to like pop, I'm glad that there's like questions about it, because I was wondering if what I'm writing about is too trite.
Well, it's what your whole book is about, right? I mean, and I think that's really interesting as a conceit and as a guiding force for the book. And as soon as we get, you might have noticed that as we got talking about your book, I got super, which is why like Kelby and I are thinking about like shifting this towards more of a writing style podcast instead of, focusing on media, because I don't know, I'm really interested in it's what I do for a living, right?
Yeah.
Like I help people with their books, and I'm interested in, I guess, whenever I hear people say that, like I threw something out, that's always very interesting to me, because I'm more curious in that than in, oh, I just finished another book and it's the exact thing that I wanted it to be.
Yeah.
But when people say I threw it out, they fall into two camps. There's the camp that you're in, I think, where you're looking for something and trying to make something that's true to your idealized vision of it. And then there are people who just kind of shouldn't write. Probably.
Well, I envy the people who could just like auto produce things. I sometimes wish I was James Patterson and could just, go into some like weird like hypertension state and just like come to, and there's like a weird book about like angels or something in front of me. Like that sounds nice. I'd be happy if that was the case, but I think I'm a little overly belabored with self-consciousness. So I'm trying to move past that, but
you don't strike me as self-conscious at all.
Just about my writing, honestly, that's it. I'm a very confident person, but I've finished a few drafts of things before and hate them, burn them, worthless.
Have you
And
have you asked anybody else to look at them?
one of them I would never ever. I have a printed copy in my room right now that I finished. I think 5 years ago or so. I will never let anyone touch that. I hate it.
Show it to me. Let me see
Oh,
it.
absolutely not. It's awful.
Why not?
Well,
Why
I'll
not?
show it to you, but it's really, really wretched.
No, I believe. We're getting somewhere. I'm a breakthrough.
I feel a real kinship to this. This is exactly me. And it's not from a place of self-consciousness either. It's just like that. I think it's that sincerity
here I am.
to the vision.
Here's a big printed fucking copy of Video Forest. It's a novel in 3 parts, and it is a shit show.
Send it to me. I'll pay the shipping.
I don't know if I'll send you this copy because I like it as I could probably find the file for it, but no, I'm really displeased with this because I actually like I like the main idea of it, and I've thought about revisiting it in a different way, but it's very juvenile. I wrote it when I was 22. I think politically it's really stupid in what I wrote about.
My first novel was published when I was 23.
So was Mishima's.
I mean, there's something there, dude. I mean,
there's something in here, but
I mean, you just called it juvenile, and we've just got done talking about how GANTZ is juvenile, but it's also awesome, right? I mean, so I'm so interested in just like this. People can talk about other people's art in such a way, and then when it's them, they're like, "Oh no, but I can't." But I have a feeling there's some gold in that, in what you're looking through right now. You're looking at it with disdain. But
I'm not. I'll give it a try. I haven't read it in like 2 years. I think it's kind of boring as well in the middle part, so it's probably a little long. I mean, it's double spaced, like Times New Roman 12. It's 346 pages.
It's not bad.
No,
it's pretty regular. I think what you need is other people to read it.
Yeah,
to tell you about it.
To be honest, I just think thematically, like, have different thoughts now. Like, I would write this in a different way. So I would be happy to like try it, writing it again. But there's a few fundamental things about it that I wish I had done differently. Like the protagonist's job is not correct.
What's wrong with the job?
He should be a painter and not a video artist.
Okay.
So that's one thing.
So this is shit that I get. I feel a kindred like spirit here. This is all the kind of shit I get hung up on. Like, and David's always like, I came up with this character's name and this is what they do and this is their background and I've written a chapter, and I'm like, what the fuck, bro? Like,
I have edited 350 novels now in my life. So it's all just, I'm like the GANTZ, the Room of Truth. It's all data, you know. Like,
I would be kind of horrified for you to read this because I think it's also like, I think stylized, like the style is like, it's really rough. I don't really agree with what the book says anymore either. Like, I don't think it's true. And I think
you can translate it. Just now you're a translator. Now you're somebody who's found an artifact that you are now going, like, that's what reading is. That's what finding books are. It's you don't read a book. If you read a book and you need it to be you, then you're a libtard. Right. So that holds true for you too. Like, oh, cool. I found a version. I found 22-year-old Zach's book. Let's see. I'm not saying that this book needs to come out in 2 weeks and, you know, and be a thing. Right. I'm just saying that there's value in going back through it with a friend and finding what works and finding what doesn't work.
Yeah, I would maybe do one more draft of this before I let anyone read it. I think, like, I feel like it needs to be a little closer to something legible first, but like
there's always something.
I know there's something in here. The main idea is interesting.
Yeah.
And it has a really good scene that goes on for like 10 pages of someone cutting up a body that I was pretty impressed with. I remember crying when I was writing it as well.
That's the alchemy, though.
I
One of the
was
things
really
I believe
attached to the
about
protagonist, so
one of the things I believe about writing is that it is alchemy. And so whatever you feel when you wrote it will come through
yeah.
in the book. So if there was a scene that was making you cry when you wrote it,
Mm-hmm.
when people read my first book, I was really bad into drugs and I was very lonely. And it's set in a gulag in Siberia.
Yeah.
And people say like, oh, and you can actually see this on Goodreads. People are like, when I read this, I felt very cold. And I was like, yeah, because that's where I was at when I wrote the book. So anyway, if you were crying, that means there's something there. This is my new favorite role as like the semi superior scoldy figure who's like, you need to put that book out, boy. You need to put that book out into the world.
Yeah. This is the year I'm going to finish something. I can't go any longer because I need to impress that fucking pianist for one. And also
have a novel out
I
on
know.
Simon and Schuster that's slated for 2027 at this
Listen,
point.
I'm a fucking gay crossdresser. Like, I'll just like pretend to be a little trans. Give me my fucking deal.
Be soup dude. We talked about this recently. Like,
Yeah.
if you can pull off trans a little bit, which I mean, obviously you can.
Mm-hmm.
Just say that you're trans.
Yeah, I'm just gonna like put the wig on and be like, like
be trans, adopt a black baby. You're in.
I'm in. I'm a gender non-conforming, low-wage immigrant. Okay, like
what's his podcast about? Like, don't listen to that.
You don't have to. No. That's fine. Don't think about that.
It's all right.
It's all behind a paywall.
It's fine. It's really expensive.
Don't. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'd be so embarrassed if you listened to
my little podcast. Yeah. No. I'll take a reread of this.
Are you seeing anything that you like?
I read a few sentences
read me some sentences. Read me something from the book.
That's intense. Okay, but she made the turn across the bridge. The burnt remains in the cabin next door were invisible in the onslaught of snow. What she could see as she pulled into the driveway was her husband's truck. When she went inside, sheltering herself from the oppressive nothing of the world exterior to her home, she found her son standing at the top of the stairs looking down at her. His face had nothing on it but the shadow of her husband as he walked into the bedroom and closed the door. End chapter.
The fuck? What's wrong with that? That's great.
That's fine. That's all right. That's
it's
acceptable.
Great. No, it's great. It's got the melodrama, but most importantly, and this is the hardest thing I think when I deal with clients, is that there's a rhythm of writing that's really hard to teach that people don't understand. Like, for example, I can't dance. And no amount of dancing classes will teach me how to dance. I just can't do it. And I think that's the same for writing. But you've got the rhythm down. Exactly.
Yeah, interesting. Oh, I forgot. He finds a gun.
Oh, let's go.
I actually forgot about most of the plot of this, so I should probably reread this today.
This is what we're here for, folks.
Well, thank you very much. This GANTZ podcast turned into a let's reappraise video for us, a novel in 3 parts.
Let's go.
Draft 1. No, I appreciate it. No, it's very sweet. I think looking at this will give me some motivation. So
cool. All right. Any final thoughts on GANTZ before we wrap up?
All things should be more like GANTZ. Oku is a genius. Everyone should read this like slow motion over time. Just like take a year and like read it slowly at your own pace, and it'll liven you up and give you a lot of hope for the future of artistic accomplishment.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, no, it's I read GANTZ in a really kind of stutter step way. I binged it and then stopped binging it and then binged it again. But I find a lot of inspiration in the way that it was created, both in the creator's embrace of new technologies, his retardation, and his appreciation of titties. Genuinely, like, I think that's really cool. And I think that if more art was focused on things that you genuinely appreciate instead of
Mhm.
what you think you're supposed to appreciate, I think you end up with just a good product. I don't think it's a mistake that GANTZ became as popular as it did, both in Japan and America and
I
elsewhere, I'm sure.
agree.
Zach, where can the people find you?
You can find I'm So Popular by its name on Spotify, Apple, most of the podcasting services. And on my show, we do a really exciting project called Sirens that's only available for Patreon subscribers, where we do kind of behind the scenes chatter. I do bonus episodes. I just read like 30 pages of my diary on there recently, so that's all really juicy stuff. And there's lots of good stuff with these two boys behind a paywall there too. So please come join me, and that's on patreon.com/ I'm so popular. I'm on Twitter at Oscar Homo and on Instagram as Langley Chichi, but who cares? So
Awesome.
The shit on Mein Kampf
ah
recently was intense.
yeah, that was wild, right?
Yeah. No, when you were talking with your mom at the end of one of them, I was like I was in tears while like doing some really manly manual labor. I was like
Thank
listening to
you.
that and was like, damn.
I think I've heard maybe like 6 or 7 people tell me that they teared up listening to that. So I that's great. Thank you very much. I'm glad you emoted in some way that warms my heart.
Absolutely.
Perfect.
You're the best. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much. I had so much fun as always.
Hell yeah. Thank you for listening to Agitator. If you enjoy the program and would like to support it, please go over to patreon.com/agitator. You can join the community of artists collaborating, learning from each other, inspiring each other over on the Agitator exclusive Discord. You can read serialized novels written by the hosts and hear extended episodes like this one would typically be. But we just thought the sauce was so good, we had to show you what you were missing out on. So once again, patreon.com/agitator. We'll see you over there.